Last time, I left you with a question. Can wealth actually be built in 24 hours? Here's the answer. Anyone who tells you overnight wealth is a myth is wrong. It happens all the time. You've seen the headlines. A programmer barely out of college, suddenly worth $50 million. 55 employees splitting a $19 billion payout. Welders and baristas waking up as millionaires because a rocket company went public. It's real. It happens constantly. But here's what the headlines never show you. That wealth wasn't created overnight. It was converted. For years, it existed as something invisible. Paper. Promises. Numbers in a file that might as well have been monopoly money. And then, on one single day, the world slapped a price on it. That's the trick. What looks like a lightning strike is actually a time lapse. A decade of quiet work, played back at full speed. And once you see how the trick is done, you'll never look at money the same way again. Because this video isn't just about how other people got rich in a day. It's about the machine underneath. The one that decides whose paper becomes price, who gets locked out, and why the biggest winners were chosen years before the day ever came. So let's start where every overnight fortune actually starts. Not with luck, with position. Here's why that welder story feels so intoxicating. It plays into a question almost everyone secretly asks themselves. Why not me? We've been trained to think of wealth as a lottery, a random strike. Right place, right time, pure luck. The kind of thing that could, theoretically, happen to anyone, including you, today. And that illusion does something quietly dangerous. It makes the slow, boring, unglamorous work, the years of showing up, building skill, choosing the right company before anyone else believed in it, feel like it's for suckers. Why grind for a decade when someone else just got the same result in a single day? But that framing is built on a lie. Not a lie about whether overnight wealth happens. It does. The lie is about how. Because nobody in these stories bought a ticket. They didn't get chosen at random out of a crowd. They were already standing in exactly the right room, years before the door opened. Usually for reasons that had nothing to do with luck at all. So before we get to the mechanics, let's talk about how you actually get into that room. Let's take one real room. A rocket company, going public for the very first time. Before that day, its stock wasn't money. It was a private number, agreed on by a handful of investors, worth exactly nothing to anyone else. Because nobody else was allowed to buy it. Then came the IPO. The company offered shares to the entire world at $135 each. Overnight, that private number became a public price. And the value on the table was staggering. The company was suddenly worth close to $1.75 trillion, the largest public debut in history. Every employee holding stock. The engineers, sure, but also the welders on the factory floor, the baristas in the break room, watched their shares convert from an abstract number into something the entire world had just agreed was real money. This is the mechanism behind every overnight fortune. Not creation, conversion. A price finally gets assigned to work that was already sitting there, quietly, for years. But converting paper into a price is only step one, because a price on a screen and money in your bank account are not the same thing at all. This isn't new. It's not even rare. It's a pattern that repeats every few years, like clockwork. Go back to 1986. A software company called Microsoft went public. By the time the dust settled, it had created around 12,000 millionaires and 3 billionaires. Not just engineers, secretaries, people in marketing who took stock instead of a bigger paycheck, on a bet nobody could prove at the time. Almost 20 years later, Google went public the same way. That single day created an estimated 900 millionaires, including the company's massage therapist. She never picked a stock in her life. She just showed up to work at the right building, years before anyone knew it would matter. And when Facebook bought WhatsApp, 55 employees split a payout worth about $160 million each. Notice what's missing from every one of these stories. Luck. None of them won anything. They were already inside, holding a piece of it, long before the rest of the world got the chance to bid. Position, not luck. Every single time. Now here's the part nobody puts in the headline. The day that Welder's shares converted into a price, he still couldn't spend a single dollar of it. Most IPOs come with something called a lockup period, usually around 180 days, where early employees are legally forbidden from selling. He was, technically, a millionaire who couldn't cover lunch without a loan. And even once the lockup ends, the price isn't guaranteed. Months after that same rocket company's stock market debut, analysts valued the shares at less than half what they'd sold for on day one. On paper, fortunes can shrink as fast as they appeared. Then there's the part everyone forgets until April. Taxes. A huge share of that windfall, often close to half, belongs to the government before it ever belongs to you. Think about that. The government is your silent and largest business partner in every overnight fortune. So the millionaire on paper, the millionaire in the headline, and the millionaire with real spendable cash? Often three very different people. Here's something else the headlines skip. In every one of these stories, Microsoft, Google, the rocket company, one person's stake was always worth more than every single employee windfall combined. The founder. These events don't spread wealth evenly. They concentrate it, sharply, upward, at the exact moment they look most generous. But there's one kind of overnight wealth that's even darker, because it isn't converted from anything real at all. It's just printed. We've seen this before. Centuries ago, a Chinese dynasty invented paper money and printed so much of it that the entire currency collapsed overnight. The world's first hyperinflation. That wealth wasn't built over years and priced in a day. It was never built at all. It was manufactured out of nothing, and it was paid for by everyone else who was already holding that currency, whether they knew it or not. That's the difference that matters. Real overnight wealth is conversion. Fake overnight wealth is theft, wearing a nicer name. So, is wealth in 24 hours possible? Yes, completely. But now you know what that sentence actually means. It means years of invisible work converted into a price on one specific day. It means being positioned before anyone else understood what was coming. It means paper that's often locked, taxed, and fragile, not spendable cash waiting in an account. You can't fake the years. You can only be ready when the day arrives. And that's the real game. Not chasing luck. Choosing, deliberately, where you stand, long before the door ever opens. Here's something stranger, though. If wealth like this can be converted and priced overnight, what does that say about the money already sitting in your bank account? Where did that come from? Who decided it was worth anything at all? It turns out your money isn't backed by gold. It isn't backed by much of anything. And once you understand what it actually is, you'll never look at a single dollar the same way again. That's the next video. If you want to see what your money is really made of, like, share, and subscribe to Curious Black, and I'll see you there.